Let me just scroll down a bit to see if there's any news to talk about. Yeah, next week there's Wwdc. That might be interesting to talk about what's coming out and what is not coming out, disappointments and stuff. Yeah, there's the news here about the M2 MacBook Air. Wait, no M2 chip? Holy sh! Yep, that's true. As you saw in that skip, there's not going to be an M2 MacBook Air. Yes, not to say the least. Like, there's going to be an M2 MacBook Air, but not as we thought. So it's a very interesting question to pose in this video. And of course, as WWDC will be happening next week, this is a WWDC. What can you expect for next week? So if you are excited for these types of videos, do not forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate your support. But like I was telling you, yes, the M2 MacBook Air is delayed because the M2 MacBook Air won't be carrying the M2 chip, but it will. It's a very strange question and one that I will answer you in this video. So if you are excited, roll the intro. Let's first talk about what can we be sure in WWDC, because there's some stuff that I'm sure that will be happening and I've told you in several videos. So iOS 16, iPadOS 16, macOS and watchOS, those are for certain. New leakers have been saying that iOS 16 might be getting a redesign for the home screen, a small redesign for the home screen and the lock screen, but I wouldn't be so sure. I don't think Apple wants to completely redesign this one, and if they do, that would be a good surprise. So iOS 16, not much leaks to be excited for. So the only important thing in my opinion in software is actually iPadOS 16. So let's talk about the iPadOS 16, shall we? Because iPadOS 16 might be the only and most important update for the iPad ever. Because the iPad Pro, this one that I have here, is from 2018. It's still a very capable iPad. It doesn't entice me to upgrade for the newest iPad Pros. But if Apple releases a very interesting iPadOS 16, like if they make some features exclusive to the M1 lineup, then maybe I will be enticed to upgrade. Just because iPadOS 16 might be enabled as like a very good file system, a very good macOS-like experience, new Pro app support, and those could be exclusive for the M1 iPads. So if that happens, maybe I'll be enticed to upgrade from my 2018 iPad Pro, the 12.9-inch version. But as you can see right now, it's still very capable, still very new. I'm still using it for almost everything, school, notes, university. So I don't feel enticed to upgrade my iPad Pro. And now that I've switched from making thumbnails on the iPad Pro to my MacBook Pro, I have no reason to upgrade this beast. So yes, I do think that Apple needs to improve iPadOS 16 a lot to make us happy and to make us feel the need to upgrade again. Of course, what are the rumors telling us? Well, the rumors are telling us that the iPadOS 16 will only feature a new home screen-like design, like the iOS 16, and of course, it will be featuring a new app-in-app support. So when you are using two apps at a time, multi-app support, it will be changed again like they did last year and the year before. So they are tinkering with it. Not very reliable leakers are saying that we are going to get Pro app support, and of course, no reliable leakers are saying that you're going to get macOS on the iPad Pro. So our hopes are down, but let's at least have a little bit of hope for Apple to make iPadOS 16 great again. So that's iPadOS 16, that's iOS 16, that's the software family. I don't want to talk about macOS, I don't want to talk about watchOS. Those two are boring this year. I don't really need much about it. Of course, watchOS, make it a little bit more efficient, battery efficient, and give us third-party watchOS features. That's it. macOS, make it more reliable. Not much that I'm asking, but more reliability. And of course, fix the bugs on the Final Cut Pro. Optimize it better for Apple Silicon Apple. You have the obligation to do so. So that's everything that I do think will be needed to touch on software. The main reason, the main focus should be the iPadOS 16. But not all of WWDC 2022 will be software. We have a lot of leakers saying that WWDC will feature a ton of new hardware, and some leakers are saying it's going to feature new hardware. But what do I believe? Well, I do think we're going to get some hardware, but not as much as we're thinking. So what types of hardware are we getting? For starters, I do think we're going to get the new Mac Pro. Yes, the Mac Pro will be at least unveiled on WWDC. Not completely released, but unveiled. We're going to see its new design, its new technologies and core technologies, how it works, what's the new chip inside it, and you're going to tell us it comes out at the end of 2022. That's it. And then they introduce us the new Pro Display XDR refresh, and they tell us it's going to be announced or at least launched at the end of the year. And that's it. That's it for the Mac Pro. I don't think Apple will show us the prices, show us the price tier list, and show us how much it's going to cost the Pro Display XDR. I don't think they're going to do that and want to embarrass themselves on stage. So yes, I do think Apple will just show us the technologies, what are the new technologies, how they look like, the new designs, the new chip on the Mac Pro, what are the options for the Mac Pro, like you're going to get an M1 Ultra, an M1 Max, an M1 X, an M1, I don't know, whatever they want to call it, and then tell us it's going to come later this year. And that's it for the Mac Pro. What am I expecting for the Mac Pro? Well, in terms of design, I'm expecting a smaller Mac Pro, but also modular. Still the same core technologies as the Intel Mac Pro, but using Apple Silicon. And yes, I do think Apple wants to make an external GPU support and, of course, available only from Apple. Yes, it's going to be an exclusive GPU from Apple, not some NVIDIA and AMD GPUs. Then it's going to have external and upgradable RAM and external and upgradable SSDs. And that's it. That's the core technology, in my opinion, for the Mac Pro. And if they do that, that's an amazing Apple Silicon Mac Pro. If they do that, they will exceed my expectations, which right now are simply on the bottom, because yes, I do think there's a possibility for Apple only to release a more powerful version of the M1 Ultra and simply call it the Mac Pro. No upgradability, nothing. There's an option for that. There's a possibility that happens, and if that happens, then all of us will be disappointed. But that's the Mac Pro. What about the Pro Display XDR refresh? Well, the leakers are telling us that the Pro Display XDR refresh will come out with a 27-inch size display, not a 32. And Ross Young discussed that on Genius Bar podcast, saying that that's the reason for that is the fact that the Pro Display XDR 32-inch display is very expensive to make with a ProMotion mini LED display. So yes, according to Ross Young, Apple will make a 27-inch because it's cheaper and easier to produce. So am I fine with that? Yes, I'm fine with that. I don't really care, because if Apple can make a 27-inch ProMotion technology display with mini LED, then that would be impressive. That would be the best panel out there in terms of specs, quality, and everything else. It has amazing HDR support, it has amazing luminance and contrast levels, it will have 120 Hz, which is not normal. But how will Apple make a 5K or even 6 or 7K display with 120 Hz if Thunderbolt 4 doesn't support it? Well, maybe Apple can make 2 Thunderbolt 4s or even create a new standard port for the Mac Pro. I'm not sure about that, but I bet Apple will make it exclusive for the Mac Pro. So that's all my opinions and, let's say, predictions for the Mac Pro and Pro Display XDR. Those two will be the main hardware focus on this event. Then Apple, and this is only a possibility, this is not for sure, this is a wild card of the event. Let's talk about that. Because Apple could release the M2 MacBook Air, the M2 Mac Mini, and the M2 MacBook Pro. Well, I do think that the M2 MacBook Air is a very big wild card, while the M2 Mac Mini and the M2 MacBook Pro might not be. Because the M2 MacBook Pro is, let's say that, the same design. It's the same chassis, the same carcasses, just with an M2 chip, which, like I talked about in the beginning of this video, is not even an M2 chip, and it's a steroid version of the M1, like an M1 with extra GPU cores and a little bit better CPU cores from the A15, not the A14. But that's it in terms of the M2. No big jump like we were expecting for the M2 MacBook Air, the M2 Mac Mini, and the M2 MacBook Pro. So, yes, this M2 chip might be selling for a big disappointment. But I will make a separate video on that in my next video, actually Thursday. It will come out and it will be about the M2 MacBook Air not having the M2 chip, only the M1Z, like the extra M1. It's going to be not be called the M1Z, of course it's going to be called the M2, but it's going to be an upgraded version of the M1, not an M2, a full upgrade, like an S upgrade. So I'm expecting that for the M2 MacBook Air and of course the M2 Mac Mini and M2 MacBook Pro. So what about the M2 Mac Mini? Well, the M2 Mac Mini is going to be, again, the same design as the current M1 Mac Mini, with probably different colors and a little bit of tweaked chassis, but that's it. The same design, the same boring design. So yes, that's why I think Apple will be able to release the M2 Mac Mini and the M2 MacBook Pro, but not the M2 MacBook Air, because of the design. Just because the M2 Mac Mini and the M2 MacBook Pro will have the same design, Apple will be able only to take out the M1 chip and put the M2 in it and use the same assembly lines, while the M2 MacBook Air requires new assembly lines and new factory development and new machines to make them. So yes, Apple has to take that into consideration, and yes, they do need to work on that still. So according to a lot of leakers, we're going to have to expect the M2 MacBook Air to come out at the end of 2022, not on WWDC. So yes, that's why I'm expecting the M2 MacBook Air to come later this year. But this M2 MacBook Air has wrapped in a lot of controversy just because of the M2 chip, and if that happens, the M2 Mac Mini and the M2 MacBook Pro will be also enveloped on that controversy. So that will be settled on WWDC if Apple launches the M2 Mac Mini and the M2 MacBook Pro, because we're going to see the new M2 lineup on WWDC 2022. But if that happens, I'm actually very excited to see if the A15 cores will make a very big difference or a small difference, because according to a lot of leakers, we should expect the real M2 chip next year in 2023 or even 2024 on the next generation of Apple Silicon. So, I mean, is that a boring disappointment? Yes, maybe it is for some people, but you have to remind yourself that the M1 chip is still powerful enough for 99% of people, and even if the M2 is only a 10 to 15% jump over the M1, then it solves the 1% to 2% problem of the common folk. So, I mean, I'm not worried one bit about it just because the M2 chip might be more powerful than the M1 and probably even more efficient. And if Apple can do that while saving money themselves, probably they can pass those savings to the consumer. So I'm excited for that, and if that happens, I will be there to make videos about it and to explain to you guys why it's not a disappointment. But of course, I think that is all for WWDC. I don't think we will see any more products, no Apple VR support or goggles or OSs, no, I don't know, M1 Pro or even M1 Max refreshes, nothing. Just Mac Pro, Pro Display XDR refresh, maybe we see an M2 MacBook Pro, an M2 Mac Mini, and of course the M2 unveiling, and for sure we're going to get new software, iOS 16, iPadOS 16, macOS, and watchOS. But what are your thoughts on WWDC that will happen next week, Tuesday at 10 p.m. Pacific time, I think. So be sure that you tune out for that. I will make a reaction video after the event ends, and stay tuned for that. Subscribe my channel. Don't forget to leave a like on this video so you keep up with the news and of course the recaps of that event. Tell me in the comments down below what are your opinions, which type of products we would like to see, what are your, I don't know, wish lists for iOS 16, iPadOS 16, and are you excited to see finally the Mac Pro with Apple Silicon and the Pro Display XDR, the pinnacle of Apple Silicon and Apple design? I'm very excited. Are you? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, this has been Tech Summer talking to you here. Bye.